Welcome back to part 3 of the Smark Out Moment End of the Year Awards for 2021, or the best and the worst of WWE. We are doing for the final time the Programming Awards because they don't have programs anymore. This year killed the WWE Network, and that switch over to Peacock shouldn't have murdered all these shows, but between that and the pandemic making it harder for them to do that, and the last year where they just kind of realized, I guess, that they didn't want to continue to do some of these things anymore, basically a good half, if not 75% of the programs just ceased to exist. And the ones that are still around are really not worth talking about in a lot of ways. So we don't have much to say this time around. This is going to be the easiest, quickest of the parts for this year. And next year, we're going to combine this with the writing awards because at the end of the day, the programs are written as much as you can script things out and you can plan things ahead, even though WWE tends not to want to plan things. So we are not going to have, for instance, the talk and recap show distinction next year, the documentary shows distinction, because we're just going to essentially boil this down to in-ring main shows, like the regular programs that you would watch, and then other shows and pay-per-views. That's all we got. We're going to trim this down in half. So for the final time ever, let's go into the Programming Awards. As per usual, best and worst. Tell us what you think, whether you agree or you disagree with us. And we're going to start off with the in-ring shows, the main content, which is 205 Live, Main Event, NXT, NXT UK, Raw, and SmackDown. Those are the only ones that you have for the options for that. No Mixed Match Challenge or Mae Young Classic or anything like that they've done in previous years. And this year was the absolute hardest for me to pick things, and not in a good way. It wasn't like, oh man, all these were so great, and I don't know what to pick from. Now, normally my best just goes to NXT because it's usually the thing that I enjoyed the most. But honestly, this year, I really just kind of want to put them all down for worst. I don't know if I want to pick a best. So if I have to, I'm going to pick Black and Gold era NXT for like the in-ring product and stuff, not NXT 2.0. But I really just, I hated it all this year, kind of. So worst, yeah. Go with like 205 Live or Main Event if you want to, but just kind of, it depends on how you weigh it. Is Main Event the worst because it's completely inconsequential, it doesn't matter, and nobody needs to bother watching it? Or is Raw the worst because it's the flagship show and you have to watch it for 3 hours each week and it still sucks? I'm giving a thumbs down to everything this year. I'm breaking my own rules.
Well, I'll go next and I'll say for best, I'm going to go with NXT UK. Because it was consistent, it was pretty good in ring-wise throughout the entire year, and it's been the only consistent programming throughout the entire WWE library. So I'm going to say NXT UK, and since Tony did his worst, I'll just do mine, and say my worst is 205 Live. It doesn't need to exist. Main Event should exist. It's just dark matches, not even dark matches, but it's, preliminary matches before Raw. People get to try out new things. They get to warm up. We saw, Cross on Main Event. We saw Reed on Main Event. They tried debuting Veer and Shanky. They're still using Veer on Main Event, even though he's coming to Raw. But 205 Live needs to go away. It needs to be replaced by, if you want it to be for NXT, that's fine. Call it something else. Or if you want to just bring back superstars and do the SmackDown version of Main Event, I'm okay with that too. 205 Live isn't about the Cruiserweights. It's just got random matches featuring everybody now. And it's been some of the more sloppy stuff that I've seen in recent weeks. So 205 Live.
I'm pretty much in Tony's camp when it comes to this award. I don't want to give anybody the best because I don't watch 205 Live or Main Event or really much of NXT UK, so I can't really give any of them the better ones, and I presume they're probably better just by the very nature of the fact they're shorter. I can't. I guess I could give it to the NXT Black and Gold thing, and that'd probably be the one that I would give if I had to give a best. But especially since it switched to NXT 2.0, it's not been good. And then the worst two are undoubtedly Raw and SmackDown, because they should be much better than they are, and they're not. And Raw has the big issue of the fact that it is 3 hours long, and especially at the start of the year, it was terrible. But I have to say that, especially since SummerSlam, SmackDown has been atrocious. Like, absolutely atrocious. In terms of just, it's full of recaps. I imagine that currently it's probably running about 20 minutes of wrestling for a 2-hour show. If that, in most cases. Like, it occasionally tries to thwart that a little bit with the one they did on Christmas Eve for like that whole 12-man gauntlet thing. Just like it occasionally throws a few bits like that to try and like say, like, oh yeah, we're still a wrestling show, even though we really don't want to be a wrestling show anymore. And then the whole rest of the time spent with Roman's entrance, some pointless women's match. And then, yeah, that's basically what SmackDown is now. And Rick Boogs playing guitar. Well, Pat McAfee gets excited on commentary.
Did I say his name right?
No, I'm not going to. I refuse. It doesn't deserve it. But yeah, and then some sort of stupid happy talk segment or whatever. Yeah, it's all just, yeah, SmackDown, I think, is worse now than Raw was at its worst earlier in the year.
It still bothers me. Why is that called Happy Talk and not Happy Hour?
Because they're uncreative. Why is he called Happy Corbin? Like, what? Can they think of something a bit more interesting?
Well, since we're talking about it, I enjoyed that he did the interview with Satin last week, and he's like, yeah, I found out that was the plan because websites reported the trademark, and then I confronted them, and they said they had no idea what I was talking about, only for 2 weeks later for them to go, so here's the thing, you're going to be Happy Corbin. Like, come on.
Why are we in an era where that shit happens? Why do the people in creative not know what's happening, but the people like us find a trademark and we end up being like, okay, this is probably what's happening. And we end up telling people that work in the company what their jobs are going to fail at, you know, like.
It's because Vince knows what's going to happen. Actually, Vince and Vince and Bruce know what's going to happen. But they have to have a writing team because that makes them seem more professional. Because actual TV shows have a writing team.
I think
so
that
they're basically there as window dressing.
You think Happy Corbin is a Vince thing or Bruce thing or both of them?
Well, legitimately, everything you see on TV is either a Vince or Bruce thing. They either agree to it, or they like it, or they come up with it. So
I think they share a brain. I think Bruce knows what Vince likes. Bruce is trying to keep the job. So I'm sure the name Happy Corbin is probably a Vince thing, and everything else is a Bruce thing.
There's just like a meeting somewhere. He's just like, you're happy now. Happy Corbin. Well, talk or recap shows. This year there's less of them than ever before, but there's even less to talk about for them. And a lot of them stopped existing, like WWE Backstage and WWE Grit and Glory. Yeah, did any of you watch that? I highly doubt it.
I was on the bump. It was Samoa Joe.
There's like 8 versions of WWE now, like WWE Aura and whatnot. I think WWE Virtual Roundtable still happened this year. They do things like What the Hell's on Your Cell every once in a while and Talking Smack and whatnot. Seems like there was a death knell with Broken Skull Sessions. Like, stop going on there because your career is going to take a weird path.
So they did a weird thing this year where they announced a lot of stuff and then just didn't show it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they announced several of the Icons things with air dates and didn't show it. They announced John Cena and Stone Cold and then just didn't air that. They replaced it with Rollins.
There's that Vladimir documentary that didn't get on this list.
Just didn't show up.
I don't know why that's the case. And that's like, It's baffling to me. You actively have content and you want more subscribers and you finished it and you promoted it
And you announced an air date.
and you're going, yeah, but nah. Like, that's like investing in all the money to, I don't know why this example popped in my mind, but like, you know how people every year they go nuts over the McRib for some fucking reason because it's not all that good. Imagine buying all the ingredients, spending money on marketing, putting up posters, then going, yeah, but nah. It was just like, I don't see the point, but this year I'm going to go best as the New Day Feel the Power podcast, which, if I remember correctly, has not aired in like 2 months.
They haven't aired a new episode since Big E won the title.
So that kind of just disappeared. But was it this year that they did the toy tournament?
The toys.
I thought it was, because that was great. That was just a lot of fun. They were debating about what the best toy ever was. They're arguing whether or not like a Skip It is more of a toy than like a puzzle, and like
Kofi Kingston goes nuts about sled.
Yeah,
that's probably going to be my pick too, specifically the toy tournament, because that was the most entertaining content this year.
Arguably the most entertaining content in WWE this year. My worst, I'm just going to go, generally speaking, all the recap shows. I do it every single year, but it's the way that it is. You don't need to watch something like Afterburn.
Why don't you just give the best of all three, Uhai, and just stop it? Like,
is that even on, though? I can't find out any information about that.
Because it's meant for, like, the Middle East, not meant for us today.
But, like, there's accounts, like the Twitter account, the YouTube account, and all that don't update.
Well, they just don't update for us.
No, I'm not even seeing things that say, like, we can't watch it in your country. I'm not seeing any activity at all. I don't think the show exists anymore. I tweeted out asking, like, hey, does anybody know if this show is still existing? I don't think it's been there for, I think the most recent update I had seen was like 2017 or something.
Well, it's also possible that maybe they just decided to cut that, because this was the year they cut a lot of that international team stuff. My worst for programming, honestly, I could say all the recap shows. I think Raw Talk specifically, the fact that Raw ends at 11 and I'm still waiting at like 11:30 to finish this Raw Talk thing, just in case somebody says something that they could have said on the 3-hour show. I'll say Raw Talk.
I have abstained. Because I legitimately, and I say with just complete and total honesty, I have not watched anything from that WWE have produced this year outside of the main wrestling shows and the pay-per-views.
And even the main shows, you're just watching clips, right?
Yep.
You never saw like an oddball episode of Playback on YouTube or something?
Nope.
Fair enough.
Yeah, the only things I've watched is like, just like YouTube clips of old matches that WWE's occasionally put up and stuff like that. And then, well, I can say same for quote unquote oddball show. I've got something for that at the very least, but all the rest of the stuff, yeah, I didn't watch any. I haven't watched any of the Broken Skull sessions. I haven't watched any of the Ruthless Aggression season 2. I didn't watch anything whatsoever. The only thing that I use the WWE Network for is to watch old pay-per-views and matches.
I haven't been watching most of the other things. Like for a short time frame, I even watched things like the NXT injury reports. Stopped watching that a long time ago. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I think they stopped that after Kyle O'Reilly was just selling an attack from Adam Cole, and everyone was like, he had a seizure.
Right.
I think that was the end of that.
Yeah.
So there's a good list that like I don't think are carrying over into next year.
Ride Along probably ain't carrying over.
That didn't happen this year either.
Really?
Yeah, no Ride Along.
Yeah. So you can seemingly you can count me out of pretty much anything except maybe one mention in the Oddball show until we get to pay-per-view special, because I did not watch anything and I don't really care about anything that I may have vaguely seen anyway.
Well, I was just saying before we started recording, this year I watched the least amount of WWE TV in my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
This year, actively, if I was not covering a show, I just didn't look at it at all.
I did the exact same thing. This year was the first year I took time off, and that's not even just the time frame I did that, but I mean, on this list of these different shows, I tried to watch 205 Live as little as possible. I didn't watch a single episode of Main Event. I skipped through literally every single episode of NXT UK. I only watched the segments that were people talking or a match that I particularly actually wanted to watch, which was very, very rare. For Raw and SmackDown and NXT, plenty of times I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to make mashed potatoes instead, and I'll just have this in the background and not actually watch the match, you know? Like, that kind of stuff. Just this year, you get into the other things, like never watched Raw Talk or Talking Smack this year because I was like, if there's a big story, I'll hear about it. Of course, I'm not going to bother to watch a recap of this week in WWE or listen to more episodes of After the Bell, where I know that it's just not going to be all that particularly entertaining if they're talking about topics I don't care about. I don't need to watch the top 5, top 10, whatever things. None of it. Like, it was pretty pointless this year. And I did watch the pop questions, and I watched all the playbacks because those tend to be a little bit fun. But even then, this year, if I'm remembering if it's the right one, it was a lot of like, well, this is sponsored by Wingstop. Eat some wings. We're going to watch this pay-per-view match and talk about how great these wings are at Wingstop. And I'm like, so I'm watching an ad. Fuck that, you know? But on the documentary shows, these are your picks. The 50 greatest tag teams, the 50 greatest women's superstars, A&E biography, WWE legends, Chronicle, Day of, which should just be the exact same thing, Ms. and Mrs., Ruthless Aggression, The Build 2, another pointless kind of thing, Total Bellas, I think was still happening this year.
Nope.
They didn't air a single. I thought they had like 3 episodes or something carried over into this year.
I mean, if they did, that was the end of it.
Right. There's Untold. There's the WrestleMania documentary. WrestleMania Diary is the name of it. There was, I think, 1 episode of WWE 24, and I think that they aired 1 episode of WWE Icons, maybe 2, but they didn't really air all of them. And those are all your documentaries that they did this year because they didn't even bother to do that, even though they released a whole bunch and didn't put it out there.
I think they aired 3 episodes of Icons, the Beth one, the Yoko one, and the Rob Van Dam one. But yeah, they were all over the place, that stuff this year.
So in typical fashion, I said the worst were the reality shows because that content's just god-awful. And the best, it's hard to pick, but I went with Untold. Because, I don't know. Why not?
I'll go real quick. The worst, I'll just say reality shows, or like any of the recap shows that can be merged into one. The best was very easy for me. That was the A&E biography stuff. It was very well produced. You actually did learn a couple things. And I thought it was some of the best content with the WWE logo on it all year.
Pass on this one, Callum?
Yeah, pretty much. But I'd say Dark Side of the Ring was good this year.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
But that's not WWE product. They mentioned WWE. It's just WWE related stuff. Don't do the one the plane run from hell because that just set all sort of things off.
That is free on YouTube. You can watch that.
I recommend checking that out.
Yep. So I'll just go with that.
On the Oddball shows, for the least amount that we've ever had as an option, there's only Up, Up, Down, Downs content. There's the Great WWE Debate. There's The Ultimate Show and WWE's Most Wanted Treasures. The Ultimate Show is easily my favorite.
Yeah, I was going to say The Ultimate Show is a cool concept. I liked Most Wanted Treasures, even though it's the most worked, gimmicky thing in the world. I think all that A&E stuff was very fun.
There's at least some fun element to Most Wanted Treasures. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing that as a regular show. But yeah, it's worked as all hell. It's, any of those shows are the whole like.
It's like, oh my god, we lost all of these artifacts, but we know exactly where to find them, and we're going to tell you, and we're going to send our best named superstars out there.
We're going to send AJ Francis. We're going to fire him throughout this year as well. But yeah, if you watch like an American Pickers or like God, what's the name of the fucking the best I could do is whatever. Pawn Stars, yeah. I love that you knew exactly what I was talking about with that because it's just a meme. Those shows are all fake too. Somebody goes in and it's like, they know ahead of time that they've got this thing, whether or not it's real or not, and they do the whole bullshit. But at least it's kind of fun to see what these people's collections look like and stuff. Like, I wouldn't mind that being a little YouTube thing now once in a while. But the Ultimate Show is legitimately fun. I love why most people have never heard of it, I'm sure. And if you like our fantasy booking kind of content, that's what it is. It's Ryan Popola, Matt Camp, and Sam Roberts just being like, I think Bull Nakano should be in the Ultimate Queen's Crown tournament and stuff. I'm going best for that. You're going best for that too?
No, I'm gonna.
Oh, no, you're going Wanted Treasures?
I'm gonna ultimately say caveat here, but it's up, down, down with the caveat of also everything Woods has done on G4 because it's been the most entertaining stuff I've seen in a long, long time.
Well, on the worst side, are we all in agreement? The great WWE debate.
Well, I don't think Callum said his best.
Well, my best and worst are linked in these one. Again, it's just the case that I didn't even watch the great WWE debate, so I don't know what that is even. But the best for me is up, down, down. But my worst is also up, down, down. But the worst for up, down, down is post the fact that we realised that none of the wrestlers were getting paid.
And most of them got released.
Yeah. So it's just a case of basically it's all good to talk about the up, downstairs stuff, especially when the party was still around and they were all doing good stuff together. But then a mixture of the releases and then the recognition of the fact that, Woods is actually not getting paid pretty much at all for this. And even though he's brought all these eyes to it and everyone's been having a lot of fun watching up, down, down, all that stuff. He doesn't really make any money off of it and nobody else seems to as well. So it kind of like tarnishes almost anything that up, down, down has done up to that point because even though they're doing it because they enjoy doing it, the fact that all the money seemingly is just going into WWE's pocket just makes me feel a bit sick about the whole thing. Yeah.
Hopefully they have much better deals going on now. I don't think that that's probably true, but...
Well, I wonder, because the up, down, down content stopped right around the same time the podcast stopped for the New Day, and I wonder if all of that is linked, because the report came out saying that they all just said, we're not doing any content until you pay Woods.
Mm-hmm. At least Woods.
Specifically Woods. They're like, no, this is his thing. Pay Woods. And I hope that they do, because up, down, down is great.
No, the great WWE debate, for anybody who didn't see it, it was Evan Mack, who was on the bump for a little while there, wearing one of those old-timey judge wigs, like the, curly white wig kind of things. And everybody on a Zoom call arguing about some stuff and him just being like shouting and then saying, I want points to this person. Utter mess of a show. So the new programs of the year, we had gotten basically that kind of stuff that we just mentioned. I wrote Birth of the Stunner down. I don't even remember what the hell that was. But that's the thing, I guess. I don't know. But it's all the Grit and Glory, the Most Wanted Treasures and stuff. So to me, I just went with my worst being Grit and Glory because it was also a promotional thing. So as bad as the great WWE debate is, at least it's not just, somebody's paying us to do this, so let's put out the least amount of effort possible to get that payday. And my best, I went with the Ultimate Show again.
Yeah, my best will be the A&E stuff again, the Legends documentaries, and my worst. Yeah, Greek and Glory was just a 3-week thing on the bump, but the bump is such a stupid show. So, yeah, I'll say Greek and Glory.
Any thoughts on new programs, Callum?
No, thumbs down on both.
So let's round it out with the pay-per-view or a special event. This could be any of the episodes of TV that are specials, like Halloween Havoc, or you could get the pay-per-views like Crown Jewel is my pick right now, I think, for best pay-per-view of the year. Oddly enough, I have written down Crown Jewel / In Your House, 5 question marks. I guess I'll go Crown Jewel as the best.
I'm also going Crown Jewel as the best. That was, first of all, that audience was on fire. They were popping for everything. And the show actually felt like a big deal. They had the Rollins Edge cage match, which I said was my favorite match of the year from WWE. They had, the Sasha entrance where the whole crowd is singing the song. Like, it reminds you why it could be fun to go to a show like that. And if we were starved for content here, imagine over there, they must have really been ready to see some live events. So that was a really fun show. And oddly enough, it's the standout. It's not even like, oh yeah, I guess that's the best show. It's like, this is the best show, no question for me.
I am not going for Crown Jewel. Mainly because I didn't watch it. But then also due to the fact that I just can't in good conscience give Crown Jewel an award for being best of the year. Even if the show itself was good. It's just, I will legitimately be biased against it. Because it is purchased by Saudi blood money. So I cannot in good faith say it's the best. I had Royal Rumble listed because it was still a good show, even though there weren't any fans there, so it was a bit of a weird one. I have WrestleMania 37 Night 1, because the Night 1 was actually a pretty good show. I think me and Tony being on it's like, oh yeah, this is actually pretty great after the show happened, and then Night 2 kind of dampened the whole thing, even though Night 1 was the one that actually got rained on. I think it's for me to toss up between NXT TakeOver 35 because it's the final real takeover in my mind. There was a lot of good stuff on that show, and Money in the Bank because that was the first real show, even though they did it at WrestleMania. It was the first show with fans were back, and it had two pretty good Money in the Bank ladder matches. You had Bobby Lashley beating up Kofi Kingston. John Cena makes his return. So yeah, actually, I think I'll end up going Money in the Bank. I think that's probably was the most fun show of the year.
So on the worst, these are the notes that I have written down. I'll read them verbatim. These are like in a bullet list. Fastlane was a series of rematches. The matches were weak and all mostly existed of dumb finishes that were meant to stall even further, in all caps and italicized, and stretch things out way beyond what they needed to be, like Cruz and Big E fighting for maybe a 5th time and having a terrible roll-up reversal pin, or Elias replacing Shane McMahon with no fanfare just to have a generic match with Strowman, and nothing happened, or the women's tag title being a repeat of the Elimination Chamber with the big selling point being just a slap from Banks and nothing more. Next bullet point. WrestleMania SmackDown was dumb, what the fuck? Next bullet point. Throwback SmackDown was... Oh, I have it down that twice. I copied and pasted twice, I guess.
Yeah.
Throwback SmackDown was terrible in all caps. And then another one that says the same thing, but then if I remember correctly, I don't know why I have it typed out. I guess it was just a glitch. And then I wrote down Hell in a Cell was pointless. And then I have another bullet point that just says, I'm done with this. So I guess I was like, I'm not even bothering with the rest of the pay-per-views kind of thing. So I do have an asterisk next to Throwback SmackDown, and the fact that I copied and pasted it twice means that that's got to be even more. I got to look back to see what Throwback SmackDown was because I don't even remember.
It wasn't anything. What happened was Fox was doing a throwback week, and they asked WWE, hey, we're doing this for NASCAR. Can we do this for SmackDown? And WWE said, we're not prepared for a Legends show, but okay. And then they just did a show called Throwback SmackDown, and they didn't do any throwbacks.
Maybe that's what it was, that I was just kind of like, you're calling this Throwback SmackDown and it's a regular episode. What's a throwback? Like, let's see, every return and reference at Throwback SmackDown. That was in the Thunderdome. Of course, the first article that pops up is Throwback SmackDown was a real nostalgia hit. Not to, crap on any particular writer or anything, but I don't remember liking anything about this. So they had the 3D fake fist, and Pat McAfee's wearing like the old blue coat. They've got the old lower third written down for people like Rey Mysterio. Teddy Long is there. Yeah, fuck this thing. Throwback SmackDown.
I'm going to say Fastlane because Fastlane kicked off Peacock. Fastlane was pointless outside of the main event. And Fastlane got the Drew and Sheamus match that should have been for a world title, but we didn't get that for a world title.
Bonus points on Fastlane for kicking off the Peacock stuff, not picking. Because that was when we first realized that we didn't have like the pause function and people were having errors and stuff. Yeah. If you go pay-per-view, it's Fastlane, I think.
There's a few choices. Fastlane is definitely a nomination for it. I think SummerSlam is a nomination, even though there are a few good matches. I think you have that whole Alexa and Emery thing, and then whatever the fuck Woods was doing, spraying a water gun at people for 10 minutes, and Nakamura making a 10-minute entrance, even though there wasn't actually going to be a match involving him anyway. Just a load of weird stuff that counteracted any of the good stuff on SummerSlam. Extreme Rules was pretty similar in that regard as well. Like the whole was that? Yeah, I'm trying to just actually remember because Extreme Rules, because I'm getting them like slightly mixed order because Extreme Rules was the one that actually happened after SummerSlam because they did Hell in a Cell beforehand. That's just the weird order they did afterwards. But the whole Finn Balor getting caught up on the ropes and basically killing the demon gimmick altogether. But I'm going to go Survivor Series because even though some of the wrestling was okay and stuff, it's just a case of they really didn't give any effort into Survivor Series or put any effort into building it up the way that it should be. And the whole brand versus brand thing doesn't carry any sort of weight in it anymore, which means you're basically just watching for the sake of watching. And the only match that had any real animosity or like interest in it is the whole Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair thing. And so, of course, they put that out first. So pretty much by the time that match is over, you just don't care about anything that happens after that point. And then the whole fucking Rock 25 years, the pizza thing, the egg, all of that stuff happened in the background of Survivor Series. And so yeah, I think that was just a really bad show.
You know what? And everybody's gonna say, well, you worked yourself, but I don't care. Rock should have been at Survivor Series, or they shouldn't have plugged all things Rock at Survivor Series. I'm going to say Survivor Series. That was one of those inconsequential shows I've seen in a very long time. That's coming from the Thunderdome. Like, Survivor Series was completely a waste of time. So I'm going to say Survivor Series.
All right, well, there you go. That's the last of the programming awards, and you can see why we're not going to bother to do these next year. We're just going to do the main card type stuff, like the Raw and SmackDown and stuff, and whatever else, generic documentaries, talk and recap stuff. We'll just combine that into some other kind of thing. I don't know what I'm going to call it next year. We got 12 months to figure that out. And then the pay-per-views and special events, that'll be all lumped into the writing awards. So next year, that'll be a slightly longer section, and this one won't be here. But leave your comments. Tell us your thoughts on the best and the worst. If we're forgetting something, let us know that too. If you have any idea if some of these shows do still exist in these other countries, like what's it? How do you pronounce it again? Waluha?
It's just Waluha, yeah.
Waluha? The 3 throws me off. If you do know whether or not that exists right now, let me know so I can bother to take it off the list if it's not there anymore. But whatever it is, do your thing, drop your comments, hit that like button and all that stuff on YouTube. Stay tuned on the audio feed. We'll be right back. But if you are on YouTube, click on the next part because we're going to go into the on-air personality awards in part 4.